Hello, and welcome to Force.com Cast Episode 4, Friendly URLs with URL Rewriter. So, what is a friendly URL? So a friendly URL is a URL that is human readable and easy to recognize, so it gives you some sort of information about what the page's content is. So we have here an example where we have probably a Visualforce page, possibly in this case, where we're displaying a post, and the post has some ID, which is this long string here, and that doesn't mean a lot to really anyone. It means a lot to the server that's serving it, but most humans won't be able to figure out what particular record that ID is related to. And so rather than having a highly parameterized ID like this, what we can do is we can have a friendly URL, where what we do is we might post out the category of the post we're looking at, and then the name of the post with hyphens instead of spaces. And what this allows us to do is have these nice looking, pretty URLs that humans can actually understand. And this is very important when it comes to public facing resources, because search engines will be able to index them. So when search engines are calculating page ranks, a lot of them tend to ignore any URLs that have the question mark character in, because that denotes a parameter, or the starting of some parameters. And so that won't be included in any indexing that's done, and it won't be included in any search engine rankings. So when you're working with, particularly here, as we can see, Force.com sites or communities where we've got Visualforce pages, any of the content that we have on there that's public, we'll probably want to have indexed and have the search engine, give us a good page ranking for our content. So this is quite an important area, but it's one that a lot of people don't realise, that Salesforce provides a little tool for you to work with on this. So what we've got is a simple page and controller. I'm going to spend a lot of time looking at this, but the controller has either a list of accounts or a singular account, and depending on whether or not there is an ID parameter specified on the page, depends whether or not we just retrieve all of the accounts or retrieve just a specific account for display. And this accounts page, again, very simple, just either displays all of the accounts if we have a full list, or displays a single account if we have only the one account there. It's not very complicated or very clever code. It could be improved in a number of ways, but it's just here to display as an example, and I'll post a link to where you can find this code in the accompanying blog. So if we go now onto the URL rewriter class, so what this class is doing is it's implementing a Salesforce provided interface, which is called Site.URLrewriter. And this interface provides us with two global methods that we have to implement, one which is called map_request_URL and one which is called generate_URL_for. And what these two methods do is they take in one type of page reference or URL. So everyone knows obviously the way that Salesforce handles its redirection, its page displays via page references. So it does, it takes in a friendly URL page reference, and the map request method takes this friendly URL and it returns a Salesforce style URL, so one which is parameterized for the system to work with. And similarly, the other method, generate_URL_for, takes in a list here of Salesforce URLs and then returns a nice series of page reference URLs for working with. So it's very simple and easy. And again, the code here is purely example code. I would recommend, if you were writing it for yourself, you go through and make some improvements. So, for example, don't have queries inside loops and things like that. But it's just here for an example, and I've just defined my two routes. So I've got /accounts here for when I'm displaying an account with a particular name, and I've got the parameterized form here, /accounts ?ID. And so if we go over to my site now, I can see I've got a Force.com site here, which is just a very generic setup demo one, and I've specified here in the settings a URL rewriter class. So I've just specified the account URL rewriter. If you're doing a bigger Force.com site or a bigger community where you're using Visualforce site pages, you might want to make sure that you have a single class that manages multiple different URL rewritings to make it easier, or manages that out. But for the sake of this example, it works simply. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into another incognito window here, so you can see that I'm not connected in the same way. And if I go to /accounts, what happens is that I've got here a public facing service where I get my list of accounts, and you can just see it's just printed out all the names as links, as we would expect. And if you look at the bottom left-hand corner down here, when I hover over one, so test name, it's changed the URL from being question mark, from being /accounts !ID equals and whatever the ID of my test name account is to being /account/test name. The same for Gene Point, and Burlington's the same. And so if I click on one, say Burlington Textiles, I now have the name Burlington Textiles Corp of America printed, the account number. And you can see here that my URL is far nicer. It's a lot easier to read. A human can read it and say, well, I'm looking in the accounts and I'm looking at Burlington Textiles. And this is really easy and friendly for you to use. It's a very nice system for making sure that your pages can be search optimized and displays them in a friendly manner. So that's it for this week's quick tip. If you have any feedback, please let us know. You can comment about the video down here or on the blog post. You've got the Force.comcast Twitter handle here. Please follow us. Please retweet so that other people can start seeing these videos and sharing. And if you have any feedback, any videos you'd like to see, anything you'd like to see a video about, please either comment or send a message to the Twitter handle. Thank you very much.